You are listening to the Hodges Huddle, where we discuss all things in the wide world of sports. Here's your KLSU sports team.
Welcome into the Hodges Huddle. I'm your host, Andre Champagne, and today we are joined by Michael Poggi and Addison Gonzalez. It's our first podcast, so we're pretty excited about that. How are y'all doing today? It's going to be a crazy week, by the way.
Man, happy Bama week.
Happy Bama week.
Happy Bama week. Happy Fire and DA Day. Bye-bye, Dennis Allen, for all my Saints fans out there. It's a good day. It's Red Beans and Rice Day.
Red Beans and Rice Day.
We're having a good day. I'm excited. It's going to be a long week, like you said.
It might be tropical storm week as we
but man,
see the forecast.
We're here for it. We're all here for it.
Yeah, Addie?
I'm a little scared for this weekend, but there's also a hurricane coming, so
that's just
be interesting.
Louisiana for you in a nutshell.
Come on. We ain't scared.
You know what they say, it never rains in Death Valley. So
never rains in Tiger Stadium.
It never rains in Tiger Stadium, right. So we have a big week ahead of us, but it is Bama week, so let's get to that and that big matchup on Saturday night.
Yeah, come on.
So LSU will take on Alabama in Death Valley Saturday with the college football playoffs and pretty much both of these teams' seasons on the line.
Elimination game.
This is literally a playoff game.
Elimination game.
So starting off, let's talk about LSU and that defense.
Yep.
Now in this one, you obviously face one of the better quarterbacks in all of college football, especially one that can hurt you with his legs, right? You saw that last year. Now, do you think the continued, struggles of stopping the mobile quarterback continues in this one, or do you think that, now that LSU had 2 weeks to prepare for a running quarterback, that they're going to be okay?
Look, they better. That's all. I mean, look, I can't tell you if it's going to happen or not, but what I can say is this. They've prepared. There's no more excuse of,
right.
Look, we weren't ready for this kind of quarterback. You know what Jalen Milroe can do. He ran 4 touchdowns on you last year, and that's honestly the main reason we lost that football game. So you go in there and you play that defense knowing that you have to put a QB spy. You put weeks on that spy if you have to, and you get to the quarterback when he moves out of the pocket, you're gonna be fine. But that's what we're talking about.
Yep.
So I hope they can do it, but
Yep.
you've been preparing for it, so there's no excuses.
Yep, I agree. Addie?
it's kind of the same thing. Like, I hope that they do, but it's kind of like a thing. Like, I'm not sure at the same time. Like, they did have this week. Like Blake Baker gave them. Like, they did have this time to prepare,
Right.
but it's kind of a thing. Like, we do hope that they'll fix their mistakes, but
Right, like a fool me once, shame on me. Fool you twice. Shouldn't happen
Fool
again.
me can't get fooled
Yeah,
again.
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, come on.
I'll say, to be optimistic, I'll say LSU is definitely going to have a better week than they did guarding Marcel Reed. But I think that, comes with having more time to prep. I think, obviously, you should have prepped for Marcel Reed.
You should have.
There's no doubt about it. But let's be real. Like, we all thought Connor Wigman was going to be in the game all game.
Everybody did. Even Greg Penn did. And, that's your leader.
Exactly.
That's your captain of your defense. So if he doesn't think that Marcel Reed's coming in the game, then nobody thinks Marcel Reed's coming in the game.
And like you said, I mean, you have also great film to watch from last year to see what not to do.
Exactly.
So, but the most important thing I would say, yes, he can hurt you with the rush, but just his, ability to improvise, that's got to be stopped. And, he can hurt you with his arm more than anything. He's a great deep passer.
If you give him enough time in the pocket to sit there and throw the ball, he's a Division I quarterback. He's going to be able to make the simple throws. We saw that against Auburn last year on that 4th and 31.
31, man.
He had that opportunity. So I just think that if he's able to, continue his – if Jalen Milroe is in the pocket for a long period of time, he's going to torch us. But so you got to get pressured.
We'll talk more about that. But for the LSU linebacker specifically, you already mentioned the spy. Now, how should they go about, containing Milroe? Spy him, blitz him more, drop him back.
I mean, you got to have.
You said the spot.
You got to have a spy, but you also got to be able to blitz because you can't, like I just said, you can't give him any room.
Right.
Can't give him any room to sit there and throw the ball. He can't be patient out there. We got to get sacks, but we also, can't just let him run all over our defense either.
Yeah, I said put a spy on him and like some occasional blitzes, but they have to be like smart blitzes.
Smart blitzes. That's a good point too, because LSU just being able to change their looks is going to be huge in this one. And Addison, I think that was a good point because you got to keep Milroe off guard, right? Like you can't be very predictable, and that's a reason why he was so good against the blitz against Georgia because it was 3rd and long. A good bit, and Georgia would blitz every single 3rd down. Now, you don't need to do that every single 3rd down, but I think Blake Baker has got to send, some 3rd and medium situations. He's got to drop guys back. He's got to send guys on maybe some 1st downs that, you least expect them to blitz. But it's really just, also that defensive line, you mentioned it. You got to get home. But you also have to make sure that you're not, collapsing the Alabama pocket to the point where it allows him a big hole.
Right.
You have to collapse at a point where you get to him.
It sucks, but you're gonna have to be perfect. Like that's
literally,
you're gonna have to be
perfect.
like everything that we're describing right now is like a lot easier to do easier to say than it is to do.
And you're completely right, but it has to be perfect
because has to be done.
This LSU offense that we're going to talk about in a little while is just plain simple bad right now. So Alabama has a lot of weapons, there's no doubt, including Mr. 17-year-old himself. I mean, we've heard it.
Younger than all of us sitting at this table,
right.
by the way.
Broken record, Ryan Williams. Who should LSU let, cover him? I can go first if y'all want.
Yeah, go first.
I mean, Addie, do you want to say first? Or
You go ahead.
Okay. I have Stamps. Stamps.
That's...
I mean, it's going to be a fun matchup because you look at it, from a physical standpoint, Stamps is 6'180". Ryan Williams is 6'175".
Yeah.
I mean, that's the closest matchup that you're going to find probably in the SEC as far as wide receivers go, as far as one-on-one, because, I mean, Stamps he's a small guy, and he has to go up against some big guys.
If you've listened to this show, if you've listened to our podcast, if you've listened to the Sunday shows, tailgate shows, whatever, you know how I feel about Ashton Stamps. He is our guy. He is the cornerback one. He is the dude. When you have a top-on-top matchup, you put your number one on their number one, and their number one is Williams. So you have to make the play and
tackling, man.
Stamps. It's going to come down to tackling, but Stamps. This is how we always talk about Stamps getting the turnover, and it
never happens.
This would be the game for him to go out there and get that turnover.
I love that.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think this is the game where he should really step up because obviously this is a must-win game, and he has to be the player to.
It's true because he's guarding the best player on their offense. Yeah. So I mean,
I don't want to seem like a broken record going both ways, but there's other guys that you could put on him.
But they're not going to beat you single-handedly.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So you got with the other DBs that we have, in our pocket,
you got to feel good about them.
You got to feel good about having those other options because Bama's got other options too. Let's not forget about that.
Right. And for some odd reason, when LSU comes to town, when Alabama comes to town to play LSU, the tight end for Alabama becomes Travis Kelce no matter what, and it's ridiculous. So I think that's going to be a big point. We might talk about that on the tailgate show on Friday because I don't want to be repetitive. But what player on this LSU defense do you see having a big game in this one?
I've got two.
Okay, you can go two.
And I think Whit Weeks is one because he has to. He has to be that guy who contains and makes a play. And then I'm going to go with Major Burns. And the reason I'm saying Major Burns is because if Whit Weeks is doing that containing and doing the QB spy and doing all that stuff, Major Burns has to be that leader on the defensive side of the ball, DB in that star where they got him at. He has to go out there and tackle, hit the guy, go force
make a play on the ball.
Make a play on the ball and wrap up. And if he continues to do that, because look, I harped on him so much earlier in the season, and all he has done this year has gotten better. And he's honestly been playing really good football recently, and he just needs to continue to do it, and I see him doing so.
Okay.
I would say Whit Weeks and Braden Swinson. I think that they both have shown in the past they've had games where you're like, wow, like they're really good.
Right.
And I think that this game they need to be like the ones to win it for us.
Right. I like those two picks too, and I also have Braden Swinson. Because in a game like this, we've talked about it already. It's Milroe, his ability to make something out of nothing, and I think Braden Swinson's a big part of that. Being on the edge and setting the tone for that LSU defensive line is going to be huge in this, because you want Milroe to start this game off, just kind of, hectic, right? You want him to make those uncomfortable throws and maybe get a turnover out of them, but. I'll say him more so, just the whole defensive line. But Braden Swinson, he's been kind of quiet, over these past few weeks.
He has been. He's been getting shut down. But
exactly. So you kind of want to see him get back to it. But offensively, this is where it really gets aggravating,
shaky.
Right?
Yeah.
LSU saw a lot of trouble against A&M last week, and the unit itself is going to have to be miles ahead, than they were last week. But talk about the rush attack and why it's so important for them to be creative, right? We've talked about why the running game is so important already, and like I said, it's starting to be like a broken record. But you got to keep Alabama guessing, right? We saw it last week against A&M. You were predictable, and
that's the thing. If you're gonna rush for 20-something times, it's got to be more than 30 yards, and it's and. If you're not able to run the ball, you're not going to win the football game. We've said that all year. If you're not able to run the ball, especially in a tough SEC matchup, I don't care if it's in Kyle Field, I don't care if it's in Tiger Stadium. If you can't run the ball,
you're not going to win.
You're not going to win. And so, look, I think Nuss has the talent, and we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Does.
And he has the talent to go out there and make a play. But if we're not running the ball and opening up the field, we don't really have a chance offensively, and it's just going to come down to our defense, and that's where it just gets scary for LSU fans.
Yeah, I think that the plays have to be so much less predictable than they are, and I think that we should know that by now. And the same mistakes just keep happening over and over again. And I also, what Michael was saying, like last week during the Friday show, I think it was. We were going through like the amount of yards that have been run by LSU compared to
just other teams.
And it's like unbelievably low. Like
I'll probably look up the stats for that on Friday, but I can tell you LSU's rushing offense is probably in the hundreds.
It's not great. It's obviously not great.
Yeah, but so far, like it's got to work. It's got to work. That's the. Boom, kindergarten answer.
Well, I just don't understand. Sorry.
No, you're good. But you just showed every team in the country to not respect the run after that A&M game. And so you've had 2 weeks. There is absolutely zero excuses at this point. You don't have Dellinger anymore. You have Mubinga. He's a good backup. I'll say he's a good backup. But he's had 2 weeks now to get ready for this team. Now, Alabama comes into this game with, guess what? The 64th rush defense in the country. That's awful. That's probably the worst they've had in years. If you can't run the ball against them, you're an unserious football team. That's all I have to say. Because and look what Vanderbilt did to them.
Look, what I've seen is what Vanderbilt was able to do in their game.
Physically,
they didn't just run the ball up the middle.
No.
They ran the ball outside, and they took it outside because that's where they're weakest the most. You want to know what our strongest point on the offensive line is? Our outside tackles. Your two best players on the offensive line are your tackles.
Yep.
Your left tackle and your right tackle. How about you run to the outside with your All-American SEC tackles?
I agree.
Give that a shot, because running it up the middle every time on 3rd and 10 isn't
working. It doesn't work.
So let's maybe try something up. I'm not a coach, but that's just when I see that and I see who you have on your outside and I see who Bama has on their outside and I see what Vanderbilt did to the outside.
And physically wore them down all game,
please
by the way.
go to the outside.
Yeah. But how much does that LSU offensive line, who has been unable to really run the ball, how much do they concern you in a game like this? Like I said, when you couldn't run the ball all year.
I mean, look, it's concerning. It's really concerning. But these, like we just talked about, two different defensive lines that we're going up against. And we saw what the run game was able to do against Arkansas, who didn't really have that good of a defensive line either.
Yep.
And Bama's better defensively than Arkansas, obviously. But I think that the talent on the offensive line is there, and the talent in the backfield is there.
Oh, for sure.
So it's got to be put together. And I'm nervous about it. I'm not really I'm not confident about being able to run the ball. But to be honest, I'm a little bit optimistic because it has to work, or else you're not winning the football game.
Like it's
and your season's over. So
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. It's like we hope that we're going to be able to run the ball, but can't really say for sure. I think that Caden Durham and Aaron Anderson have been those players that can run the ball, but it's not like consistent, and you also can't be relying on two people to run the ball all the time.
Yeah, and just on the outside, those runs, you want your speedsters, right? Like, and Durham is that guy. But you don't want to be predictable at the same point. Like, you don't want to just use one guy because they're going to pick up on everything.
Give Caleb Jackson more time.
Give Caleb
Jackson more carries.
Caleb Jackson has been a non-factor at this point. Juwan Johnson, you put him at running back because of the John Emery stuff, and he's probably one of your better elusive backs. I mean, the kid played quarterback in high school, and he set records everywhere in Louisiana.
Right.
He can run it. Like, trust me, he can run it. But I don't know. I really don't know. And I think it's a creativity thing, too. Like, I'm not going to blame the offensive line completely.
No.
But you can't tell me that the effort hasn't been the best.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. But that's what I'm saying. Like, the creativity thing is going outside, going inside. I'm cool with running the ball inside. I'm cool with it.
But not every play.
But not every play. And not when you have your two best offensive linemen being All-American.
And here's another thing. They want to run the ball the outside. But here's the thing. Teams know when you're going to run the ball outside because you put the running back behind Garrett every single time. I mean, come on.
Like, just change it up a little bit.
Let a guard, I don't know, pull. Like, let them do something.
But look, and I'm glad that she mentioned Aaron Anderson because we talked about it earlier in the year.
Or even Xavion.
Yeah, or even Xavier. But if you have Aaron Anderson, we talked about it after the spring game. We were like, oh, maybe they're going to try and do some more screens, or maybe more motion on the line with him and trying to get him more involved. Maybe it's a little touch pass or something, get him moving. They haven't done anything like that. And if they have, maybe
and
once,
if they have, it's with Kyron Lacey because why are we doing that? Why is LSU putting the motion man as Kyron Lacey?
Right.
Put it, like you said, as your speedster. If you want a guy to catch the ball in the backfield, it might as well be him. Your best blocker as a wide receiver is Kyron Lacey. There's no reason to put him in motion.
Right.
Anyway, let's talk about Nuss. Obviously, the mistakes were there, but let's give him some grace. Let's give him some grace.
For sure.
The decision making wasn't there, but Brian Kelly has a point. You can't. He's going to go out there and try to be superhero because they couldn't run the ball.
Right.
And at the end of the day, you're not going to win football games if you have to throw it 50 times a game.
We just said it.
Like I said, let's not say it again. What does he have to do, though, specifically, successfully, against Alabama's solid secondary and just that defense in general?
I mean, he just has to be consistent, to be honest. And I've said that every week as well, but he has to be consistent because if he's not his consistent self, how he was in that first half, remember he was, he wasn't throwing good balls. Even that touchdown to Aaron Anderson was a bad ball. It was a
hospital ball.
It was a hospital ball that turned out well for the Tigers.
Right.
And my whole thing is if he's calm and consistent, just hit those short check downs, man. Like, just hit those short check downs. Find someone on a slant or find Caden Durham going out. Like, just find somebody because there's no point or run it for crying out loud.
Or run it.
But throwing those balls into double coverage down the sideline where you just aren't good at throwing, like you're great in between the numbers. You're amazing in between
down the
numbers.
middle.
You make throws that some guys dream of making throws. In that Ole Miss game, that throw to Aaron Anderson, the touchdown, some pros aren't
like
making
I said,
that throw.
even if you even want to, the ball to Aaron Anderson was perfectly placed at the point of where like they even couldn't get to
right.
it. So.
He makes elite throws in between the numbers, but when he's throwing them deep in double coverage on the sideline where he's just not good at throwing it, you got to know where your strengths and your weaknesses are. In a game like this, mistakes have to be limited.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing. Like his risks have to be limited, especially we're like at the end of the season now, and he was just making the same mistakes throughout the entire season. But we've had a bye week now, and those mistakes have to be gone. And he needs to assess situations better instead of just like throwing the ball to like
Literally anyone.
Yeah, and risks, like making those risks has to be gone now.
Yeah, I think Nuss just has to be just all around, like you said. The efficiency has to be better. He's got to be consistent. But if he tries to play hero like he did against A&M, it's going to be an awful night for LSU. The Bama defense this year, they feed off of mistakes. They do. And that's just Bama as it is. Like, you making a mistake anywhere, both defensively and offensively, they're going to make you pay. So no turnovers. Like, I don't think Nuss can get away with any turnovers. He was able to do it against, Ole Miss, but you can't do it here. You can't. This is literally a playoff game at this point. You got to be able to anticipate the throws better and really just rely on timing. And you know what? If you mess up because of a timing thing, that's on the receiver at that point.
Right.
That's not on you. And play within the chains until the opportunity presents itself otherwise. And that's pretty much me saying there's no need to force a throw into double coverage, like you said. No launching it on the sideline specifically, but does the deep ball, it feels like the deep ball's been just nowhere. And that's what Nuss is known for, right? So do you think that one, I guess his deep game plays a factor Saturday night?
I think it definitely
because you have to be aggressive at some point, right?
You have to be aggressive. You don't have to, like, your deep ball doesn't have to be perfect.
And it doesn't have to be every
play. Yeah. But look, once or twice a drive is not a problem.
Right.
And you do that once or twice a drive, get the defenders off their feet, maybe first down you run the ball, second down you go for that deep shot. Then third down, hopefully your run game's working enough where you get 6 yards, so you only got like a 3rd and 4.
Right.
These are all what ifs, obviously. But look, I think that if he is able to get one or two of those big plays, it changes the whole.
Because his confidence is skyrockets.
Exactly.
He's a different quarterback.
You saw him in that fourth quarter with 2 minutes left against Ole Miss. His confidence, he was locked in. He was ready through the roof. When he scored that touchdown, he was
right. He was ready to go.
Roll.
He knew at that point. He knew.
He knew what he was doing, and he knows he has it in him. He's just got to, like I said, stay consistent.
Okay.
Yeah, I think with his confidence up, he has to get more air under the ball, but also make those throws consistent so that we're not just throwing, like, make
downfield, right?
Yeah, and make those throws accurate.
Yeah, I have accuracy too. Like, deep ball accuracy is big in this one. You don't want to throw it behind a receiver. You don't want to do any of that. But if, like Michael said, if you can get that confidence up early, and that's where you're maybe like, hey, let's set the tone real quick. Let's go deep. First drive. Let's show them like, hey, we're not going to be our same predictable, comeback routes.
Right.
LSU anymore. We're going to go down the field and we're going to make you pay if you don't respect it. And I think that's what LSU needs to do. They really rarely run up tempo, and that's something that could work to their advantage if they did. So I would like to see a little more of that too. But what receiver has to step up with C.J. Daniels questionable right now? Obviously he got hurt, and he's a big reason to this LSU's team success.
Look, it's Kyron Lacy.
Yeah, I said the same thing.
It's Kyron Lacy, and the reason why it's Kyron Lacy is because last year it was Malik, Brian Thomas, and Kyron Lacy. Malik and BT are gone. and it's you. It's you. And you've made some great plays this year. But the other thing about consistency is you haven't been consistent either. And you have, that you got to be able to catch. Nuss throws them in hard. He slings them. But you got to be able to catch that ball. You got to be able to catch the ball even when the guy's coming at you. You have to be able to make those 10-yard catches, slow slants. We got to, no drops. This is one of those games where it's perfection.
Yep.
And it's got to be Kyron Lacy.
I like it.
I said the same exact thing. I said Kyron Lacy. We've seen in the past that he can come through for LSU when it matters. So I think he has to, and obviously this game really matters. So he has to step up and be the one that does that for us.
Yep. I have Kyron Lacy too. Triple sweep. That just shows you. I mean, he's got to be the guy. He has to
be his
because I mean, you have a point. Like, it felt like every single game was the Malik Neighbors game last year, even when Brian Thomas would have crazy games. But Kyron Lacy's had, moments. It's not been games, right? It's been moments. And he'll come up big for you, don't get me wrong, but then he'll go away really quietly, right, in the second half or just later on in the game. And you can't have that, man. You have to be present every single down. You can't give up on a play just because you don't get the ball. You have to go block for somebody. You have to go, you just have to be involved and just bring the experience and help your other wide receivers with it. But for Joe Sloan, I mean, is this a make or break game for him? Like, what kind of game does he have to call? And this kind of goes into me saying, like, LSU needs to be way more up-tempo. That's what my answer would be. I would say, more play actions, because that's what the line likes to do, more RPOs. That's what I'll say.
Look, I think that for Joe Sloan, he's got to change it up. Mm-hmm. He's got to change it up. And would I say it's a make or break? I wouldn't say I'd call it if things go south in this game for Joe Sloan. I wouldn't say I would call it. I will say, though, that he does need to show changes. It can't just be the same running up the middle three times. Yeah, it can't. You have to be even different in some way. Yeah. Even the pass plays.
I mean, the second interception that Garrett threw, I mean, that was a play they ran about 6 times that night.
When you run something more than once, especially when it's not working, you know what I mean? Like, unless you're going out there and fixing it and it's fixed,
right,
like, what's the point? You know what I mean? What's the point? So, look, I don't think it's a make or break game unless he just completely, loses it.
Yeah.
And unless it is horrible, I don't think it's over for him. But he's got to keep the Tigers in it with the style of plays and be aggressive. It's got to be a different LSU team like they said it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people are going to be really mad if this game doesn't go well because of him. And overall, just LSU is super predictable, and he's like a big reason why. So I think that if he does the same thing that he does every game with this game and we lose, then people will be very upset.
Yeah, I think people are going to start calling for the job. Honestly, if this game, goes like the A&M game last week, just like it kind of did at the end of the USC game, that's when you're like, hey, that's at what point. The defense can't do everything. Right. And so, but to lighten the mood up, we have 2 more questions, right? We have College Game Day coming to LSU, the first time since 19. That's going to be pretty awesome. So who do you expect to be the guest picker in this one? I'm very curious to see what y'all are going to say. Now, Jaden and I discussed this on the Sunday show, and we went into, research and everything. So I'm This is
was it a good research?
We went into our reasonings pretty.
All right. Well, look, I think that it definitely could be Joey B.
I just don't know. In the season where he's 5 and not 5 and 7, whatever his record is,
he's playing on Thursday night.
I do know. Yeah,
he's playing on Thursday night, so it could.
It's possible.
It is possible. What's more realistic?
Jamar.
Really?
I mean, maybe.
No, I'm thinking and I don't want this at all, to be honest, but I think they might go like Livy Dunn.
Okay, I could
think
see that.
They could go like
And
Livy.
this is where my pick comes in. I had Paul Skeens. So,
Okay.
You know, I could see I could see ESPN reaching and going the Paul Skeens plus Livy Dunn pick,
That does make sense.
which makes sense.
Which would
and
be-
you know, the views would.
Skyrocket.
You know they love their money, right?
Skyrocket.
You know their ratings
That's
will go
what
up.
I'm. That's
so-
why I was thinking Livy Dunn, because everybody
Yeah.
would tune in just because she'd be on the.
But Addie, what do you think?
I said either Coach Smokey, Joe Burrow, or Paul Skeens.
Okay, so you have 2 to 3. I feel like just Kim Mulkey is too easy, right? Like we want the celebs, right? And Kim, like you don't want to do what South
And
Carolina did.
I don't know if ESPN wants to take their chances with Kim Mulkey, because she'll go out there and just say some stuff.
Yeah,
she'll
true.
go out there
That's
and
true.
just say something.
Now, like I would love it for it to be Joe Burrow just because of his legacy against Alabama in 19. But the thing is, have y'all seen like the recent videos with Joe? It was literally this past Sunday. He's like on the bench. He hates the cameras. He's, you know, especially in a season where he's not doing as great as his team would, you know, want. I feel like he's going to be training, right? Like I feel like he might be training. But dude, I mean, it's time to come home, man.
You know how
It's time to come home.
you
And
know
if
how
it's not
lit it would
him,
be?
it's got to be Jamar. Like put Jamar out
Yeah,
there,
come
right?
on,
Like
get
let Jamar do
somebody.
it.
Or like BT or somebody. Let somebody come back here. Maybe.
Yeah, I think they play though, huh?
Yeah.
So Jaden
Yeah.
Daniels, there's no way that's going to happen because they have a game on Sunday
Yeah. But like,
or Monday.
what about like, I don't know, like a Leonard Fournette?
Leonard Fournette would be fun.
What about like a Leonard Fournette? Maybe.
I just don't want to see those memes of like, oh, Leonard Fournette had 30 rushing yards against Alabama.
Yeah.
And
But like, what about? I mean, could Tyrann work?
possibly, I mean, he has a game in New Orleans. It does work. I just don't know. I feel like it's got to be Skeens or one of those Bengals guys, just because Skeens is in Baton Rouge right now.
Yeah.
He lives in Baton Rouge.
Who's the last person that did it? Was it Weezy?
It
Was it Lil
was, I want to say in 2019, it was Alex Bregman.
I'm gonna fact
Maybe.
check.
Or it was Lil Wayne. It was one of those guys.
I'm gonna do
It was against Florida. It might even,
Yeah, it was
It
Florida.
might have even been John Goodwin, the actor. You can fact check that.
I'm doing it right now.
One of
But-
my other predictions was Lil Wayne.
You have Lil Wayne too. I just
Yeah.
don't know if they do two-peat.
They won't go back to back.
They want to go back to. I could see
Yeah.
Angel Reese, maybe.
Mm.
I could see an Angel Reese.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking more.
I think the Livy Dunn and Paul Skeens is a good prediction.
the
together.
Livy Dunn plus Paul Skeens together. Now, I feel like that's an easy one.
Oh, it was.
It was John Goodman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think so.
it's John Goodman or John.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
Yeah, John Goodman.
Yeah, John Goodman in 2019. So
Okay.
look at me. I was
at
at the
you,
last
bro.
one though.
Look
I
at
was
you.
I was at the last college game. Are y'all going?
I'm
Are
trying to make it
y'all
out
camping
there.
out?
Are you going?
Well,
I want to go.
I want to go. I've never been. I have never seen it. I
I've
wanna
done
go.
this dance one too many times, and
So you're
I-
not doing it?
I probably won't be. I need my sleep.
My
man.
brother's coming into town.
You got to. I think you have to, yeah.
My brother's coming into town. I'm trying to get him to come to school here, so maybe try and convince him. Try and get. He wants to go,
fun.
so maybe go check it out.
All right. Well, that I'm telling you, it's a fun experience. I'm not saying don't go.
No, I know you're not.
I just need my sleep, man.
Oh, 100%. I was
Yeah.
just asking.
There's gonna be people out there camping at 3 a.m.
Dude, I know, and I'm
And
not.
they
I'm
still
not
won't
gonna be
get a
one
good
of them.
spot.
I'm not gonna be one of them. I'm just gonna be chilling.
Yeah. I'll probably go watch the picks at about 10:30. I'll walk over and
Go hang out at the quad.
go hang out for a second. But
Yeah.
give me your early predictions for this game. I hate
wanna
to
do that.
go straight into this is our early predictions
Yeah.
until
So
our
ours don't
actual
re-
serious
ours don't
ones.
really matter right now. Ours don't
serious
really
ones on
matter.
Friday.
So look here. Instead of a score prediction, I'll give you how I think the game's gonna go. Is that okay?
Go ahead, man.
All right. I think this game is going to be a very tight, head-to-head, hard-nosed ball game. It is going to come down to who wins the offensive side of the ball. Whoever outplays the other offense is going to win that game, in my personal opinion. I think in Death Valley, Jalen Milroe has never experienced a night game in Death Valley. And I think that is going to come into a factor. I think LSU wins this game. I think it's another storybook, crazy game. heart attack coming for you. But I think LSU wins this ball game closer than a lot of people might think.
All right. Okay.
I think that it could be like two different, like one of two
Possibilities.
I think it could either be like a 15-point loss. Okay, maybe not 15. Maybe like
I could see it.
I could see, no,
maybe like
don't
12
go back.
point,
I could
12
see
point
it.
loss, and Alabama wins by like a bit of
Yep.
a gap, or it would be
Close
a really tight loss.
Oh,
But
so
I
you
don't
see a loss
see.
either way.
Yeah, I don't really see LSU winning unless maybe like a, I don't know, like 7% chance that we win.
It's all right.
Damn. Okay. You know what? That's fine. I like it.
that.
But
I
that would
like
be
it
that would be really good if we did.
because I'm sorry, Michael. I have LSU losing in this game too. I just
Thank goodness. All right.
the curse is broken
All
or
right.
something maybe. But
All
I
right.
think Bama wins this game by a touchdown so far. This is my early game predictions. You'll see my real on Friday. I'll have to think it through a little bit and see what the injury reports and all that stuff looks like. But I don't know. I think Garrett's going to throw another pick that defines this game. And unfortunately, I think the defense is going to play really well. It's just going to be a fact of can the offense, like you said, it's going to be can the offense get down the field and actually score it. This field goal stuff is not going to win you the game.
I'm trusting you one more week, Nuss. I'm trusting you. I'm putting my faith. I'm putting my eggs in one basket one last time.
He's putting his ticket
Okay,
on your
into
bus.
the Nuss bus.
Into the Nuss bus.
And I'm getting off at the next stop if I have to. Okay, you can strand me in Memphis. You can leave me wherever, Galveston, Dirty Water. I don't care. Just
What was that straight, man?
Biloxi.
Biloxi? Sticking to Dirty
I'll go
Water.
anywhere. I'll go anywhere. But
We won't see Michael for Florida week if LSU loses this game, is what he's saying.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But that's going to do it here for us on today's episode. Thank you to both Michael Poggi and Addison Gonzalez for joining me today. I'm Andre Champagne, and this has been the Hodges Huddle.